Hi guys, so my name is Ella and today I will be talking about the history of birth control in the United States and how it has evolved over the years. The invention of the oral contraceptive especially has really changed women's rights and has made way to a lot of female sexual liberty and whatnot that was a big movement throughout American history, especially in the 20th century. So birth control and different methods of doing this, or at least attempting to, has been around since the beginning of society. For example, around 3000 BC, condoms were made from materials like fish bladder, linen sheets, and animal intestines, which came with a variety of bacteria issues and health concerns because that wasn't very cleanly and it wasn't very practical. Around 1500, the first spermicides were made, which was linen cloth that was soaked in a chemical solution and then laid out to dry. And in 1838, condoms started to be made using rubber that was vulcanized. Many of these methods were extremely unsanitary, unsafe, but also they weren't very effective at preventing pregnancy. There were also a variety of ancient birth control methods that were extremely dangerous and even lethal, many of which involved the use of heavy metals such as mercury, lead, and arsenic. These did prevent contraception, but they also led to severe organ failure and even brain damage. So pretty much until the 20th century, there was no surefire way of preventing pregnancy for women across the world besides abstinence, and that wasn't always a viable solution for everybody. So in 1873, the Comstock Act was passed in the United States, and what this act basically did was it prevented the distribution and sale and advertising of the few types of birth control that were available at the time. So methods of sexual health and preventing sexually transmitted diseases and pregnancy, you were not allowed to learn about it. The United States government put bans on any education, any pamphlets, any literature on the matter, and they even gave the Postal Service the right to confiscate any birth control that was being distributed via the postal system. So basically here we are in the late 1800s and sexual education was sort of non-existent at the time and you couldn't even get your hands on birth control. So this was the point in history where Margaret Sanger came along, and in 1916 she actually opened the first birth control clinic for women that has ever existed in the United States. And just a year after Margaret opened this clinic, she was arrested and deemed guilty for being a public nuisance and was put into jail for 30 days. After she was released, she still reopened her clinic, but she continued to persevere through many arrests, fines, and a lot of legal trouble. However, in a case involving the same Margaret in 1938, the federal ban on birth control was finally lifted. This was officially the end of the Comstock era, and in 1950, Margaret Sanger did a lot of research needed for the first oral contraceptive for women. She even raised $150,000 for the effort. In 1960, it was finally developed and the FDA actually approved this for public use. This pill was a combination of estrogen and progestogen, and this was the first hormonal birth control method to ever hit the market. Now, this drug has been rolled out, right? And it's 1965, and the Supreme Court, in the case of Griswold versus Connecticut, gave married couples the right to get prescriptions for this pill. The giving of this pill was actually considered a constitutional right to privacy, but however, millions of unmarried women in 26 states were still denied access to the pill. So yes, it existed at this point in time, and it was helping a lot of married women, but the majority of women in America still did not have access to it. And in 1970, feminists actually changed the safety of oral contraceptives at well-publicized congressional hearings. As a result, the formulation of the pill was changed and the package insert for prescription drugs came into being. So now basically the pill is actually treated as a medicine, a prescription that you can get that is extremely safe and regulated, so it does not harm women's bodies. Now today there are a variety of different options that women have, and sexual education is more widespread, but there are still lots of problems with schools not properly educating their students and not having a sexual education curriculum. It's often argued that the access to contraceptives of all kinds that really reigned in the 20th century was possibly the biggest step in women's rights. It gave women a profound amount of autonomy regarding their own bodies, their sexual lives, and their female health. This was a completely radical, different way of seeing the future that women had now. They could really shape their lives. There used to be this confined box of a woman is going to be a mother and a homemaker. But now, if you didn't want to have children, you didn't have to. If you got pregnant at a very early age, that oftentimes made you unable to seek higher education because you were stuck raising a child and it was often financially not viable to go to school and be a mother. So now women had the choice of what they wanted to value the most in their early years especially. Did they want to go to college and be highly educated, or did they want to get married and have children at a young age? Women at this point in history now had that ability to choose. They could choose whether or not they wanted to go to college and not just start a family immediately, and that gave them tons of opportunities to do many different things in life. In the workforce today, women are in nearly every aspect of it, and things aren't perfect, but when you compare it to 100 years ago, women have radically different roles in society. And not to downplay the physical well-beings that birth control can give to women. I mean, plenty of women take birth control not just to prevent pregnancy, but also to treat hormone imbalances and to treat problems like bad period cramping, acne, etc. I think throughout the entire mess of the anti-abortion laws right now and a lot of feuding in this country, one of the most important things that people would need to focus on is the root of this issue, which is birth control and which is sexual education. Less women will need abortions if they have proper access to birth control and if they have proper sexual education in school. In a study by Planned Parenthood, in 1970, college enrollment was up to 20% among women, which was an all-time high, and the dropout rate of women in college that did have access to the pill was 35% lower than women without. This type of empowerment has been phenomenal and has given so many more opportunities for change and pathways for women to succeed in today's society. Now today, 62% of women between the ages of 15 to 44 use some type of birth control, whether that be the pill, the IUD, a hormonal implant, or something of the sort. And a good thing is that all of these birth control methods are free for people under the Affordable Care Act, which was deemed by the Obama administration. However, the Trump administration has made many moves last year, especially to chip away at the benefits that women get in terms of free birth control, because they wanted to give employers the right to religious freedom. And this is because many organizations like the Catholic Church still see birth control as sinful or something that women shouldn't have access to. I think if they're so against abortion in the first place, they should want to do everything they can to prevent women from needing an abortion in the first place. And sexual education and access to birth control, which is affordable and possible, is extremely important. To remain positive here, birth control is pretty much widely accepted as something that is okay and normal to talk about. The conversation has really just been widened so that people know that women's health issues matter just as much as anybody else's health issues. Things are not perfect, and especially in developing countries, it is a huge issue to help women get access to clinical visits and birth control and sexual education and things of this sort, but people are realizing the problems that arise when women don't have access to these things. Of course, there is a long way to go in this journey, and there are many things that we can do today to make things even better for women across the world, but we have reached a long way, and a lot of that is to blame on Margaret Sanger for really changing the history of women's lives in America. And if you are interested in reading more about this or seeing ways you can help out, there will be links in the description below where you can do some reading and where you can see what you can do to help with this issue today. See you guys next time. Yikes, that was so unorganized. I'm sorry, Miss B. I love you, Miss B. Bye!